We have reported the threats, and they claim that the attackers blocked them and couldn't get through, and they are the ones who should control the public and keep order, not the other way around.
But despite their issues with Ahmadiyya, the government says authorities do what they can to protect Ahmadiyya communities.
We always ask the police to do what the law have to do to anybody who distract and break the law. But again, sometimes there are some constraint that the police cannot get the very clear and very comprehensive report.
Back on the island, Khairuddin has a lot to consider. The group will only get facilities here if they sell their assets. He will need to source fresh water for his family and find a boat to work. But what this island does provide is a safe place to live.
Despite the hard times of having to move and having our houses destroyed, it's nothing compared to staying true to our faith. Our relations with God shouldn't be disturbed.
Coming up after the break, we ask if religious intolerance is on the rise here in Indonesia. Stay with 101 East.
What Gaddafi has done, he dismantled or destroyed the system in the country.
As chaos and violence sweep across Libya,
they're living through fear, they're living through a nightmare.
They're using ammunition, live ammunition.
AlJazeera hears from those who have lived in fear of Gaddafi's regime.
We don't want him to leave. We want to arrest him. 42 years is too much.
Libya, a state of terror. At this time on AlJazeera.
It is in the details. A look. A connection. The moments that reveal the truth. Award-winning documentaries from critically acclaimed filmmakers. Witness documentaries to open your eyes. At this time on AlJazeera.
The Golan Heights, one of the spoils of the 1967 war, home to 20,000 Israelis and source of 1/3 of all Israel's water. But what of the Syrians left behind? With families torn apart and all borders closed, they come to talk to their loved ones across the Shouting Valley. Across the Shouting Valley on AlJazeera.
A debilitating condition afflicting millions of women across the developing world.
Sometimes it is not possible to cure a patient with fistula. We have to prepare her psychologically.
Revealing the human stories behind fistula and its intimate connection to poverty. A powerful new series exploring global maternal health. Birthrights, at this time on AlJazeera.
Welcome back to 101 East. This week we come to you from the Istiqlal Grand Mosque in Jakarta. After a recent spate of attacks against minority religious groups, we're asking if religious intolerance is on the rise here in Indonesia. Joining us on the panel now is Muhyiddin Junaidi from the Indonesian Council of Clerics.
Yes.
Also, Andreas Harsono from Human Rights Watch. Thank you very much for being with us
Most
today.
welcome.
Muhyiddin, if I could start with you. Indonesia has been held up as an example of a mainly or a majority Muslim nation that's moderate and embraces diversity and democracy. But does religious freedom actually exist here?
Yes, definitely. Right from the time of Indonesian independence, our country has been enjoying religious freedom. As a matter of fact, though we represent majority the Muslim, but we never claim that we are majority, and there is no state religion. We have got 6 recognized religions. It's quite different from Malaysia and United Kingdom, for example, where they adopt the system of state religion. This indicates that we enjoy full freedom in this country, and we also enjoy religious tolerance. What happened recently, it is indeed just misunderstanding. It has nothing to do with religious freedom in our country.
Andreas, would you agree that it's merely a misunderstanding and nothing to do with religious intolerance in Indonesia?
I have to admit that it is not. That by design, there are problems in this country. Let me give some figures. Over the last 6 years, since President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono in power, there are more than 240 churches being closed down, and some were burned down using violence. And over the last 10 years, there were 10 Ahmadiyya mosques which are also being closed down using violence.
Well, let me ask you, why then? Why is this rise of attacks against these minority religious groups?
I think because there are two things. First, there is a rise of fundamentalism worldwide, not only in Indonesia, also in Europe, also in the United States. Secondly, because there is a tolerance, there is no action against mobs, against people who conduct violence. They are not arrested, they are not investigated, they are not jailed.
Muhyiddin.
Yes, as a matter of fact, why the churches were closed down? The government of Indonesia have got their own rule and regulation. If any Muslim or any followers of religion wanted to build a house of worship, they have to follow that kind of rule. For example, our Christian brothers, if they want to build a church, they have to collect at least now 90 persons. In addition to that, they have to get approval from 60 members of the society that can support the plan of the house of worship as a church.
Let me just stop you there and ask Andreas, what do you think of this? I mean, Muhyiddin is saying that this is merely a misunderstanding, that these churches were built illegally. Is that the case?
Well, there are some which did not get the legitimate signature. But there are many who got all of the signature, who got all of the permit, but still they are being closed down because of mob attacks. The thing is, no one was arrested for attacking churches.
This mob that you're talking about, who are they? And why hasn't there been any action against them?
Oh, they are using a lot of organizations, the Defenders of Islam Front. There are many organizations, militias, they are armed, they are violent, they are burning places, they are attacking priests, etc., etc.
Muhyiddin, I see you nodding. You would agree that there have been attacks against minority religious groups. It's not merely a misunderstanding, is it?
Honestly speaking, we, Indonesia, is well known as the paradise of religious tolerance. Regarding the Ahmadiyyas, Ahmadiyya we consider is non-Muslim right from the beginning. Because even in the birthplace of Ahmadiyya is considered as a minority non-Muslim group.
But surely they must be allowed to be to worship. They must be allowed to do what they want.
They are given freedom to practice their own religion, provided they don't take the name of Islam.
Who